And welcome to the Oddity Archive, the show that true gamers run screaming from. Case in point, and I think this is partially my own doing, it seems like just in the last couple of years, the real gaming channels have started to at least acknowledge the existence of the pioneer LaserActive system and the breed of arcade games that at least partially ran on Laserdiscs before that. But actually, the notion of gaming, if you will, on a Laserdisc dates just about as far back as the commercial dawn of the format. And so with that, today I want to take a look back at some of those early attempts at pseudo-interactive Laserdisc games. I use the term incredibly loosely. But anyway, let's kick things off with the first, most famous, and least worst of the lot. It's the first national kid disc. In 1980, Magnavox, MCA, and Pioneer came together to launch OPA, or Optical Programming Associates. The idea was to issue so-called participative laserdiscs. They thought interactive was too heavy a word. These discs were intended to fully exploit the features of the laserdisc format. Read still frame, frame search, chapter search, automatic chapter and/or frame stops, dual audio tracks, and vary speed. OPA's first title was the downright perplexing, to old Benny Boy at least, How to Watch Pro Football, released in 1980. However, OPA's first notable release had to be the first national kid disc, released in roughly the summer of 1981. Up until this point, producer Bruce Seth Green was barely known for two things: directing an early episode of Magnum P.I. and directing the first ostensibly adult Laserdisc title, The Touch of Love, which was really more a vaguely erotic how-to video on massage than anything else. Of course, the logical next step would be to do a kids video.
Hello, welcome to the first National Kid Disc, bringing you more to make and do and see than you can shake a magic wand at.
The idea behind Kid Disc was to compress several hours, if not days, worth of kid-friendly activities onto a single-sided Laserdisc. This included some very crude attempts at games, how-tos on everything from magic to dance to arts and crafts-ish sort of stuff, as well as visits to the San Diego Zoo and Universal Studios. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given that a single-sided CAV standard play Laserdisc only holds up to half an hour of material, everything feels kinda rushed. If anything, parts of the program feel like a bad, albeit mercifully brief, acid trip. On a technical yet very practical note, Kid Disc does not adhere to CAV Laserdisc specs. Most frustratingly, as mentioned before, the CAV standard of Laserdisc can be programmed to stop automatically at certain points on the disc. This feature is not implemented here, and given the rapid-fire nature of the program, it makes navigation a massive chore. And speaking of navigation, hopefully your little one was a real ace with that Laserdisc remote, because the more coordination-heavy parts of the disc, read the games, are so quick that if you need to slow the playback speed to help with your accuracy, you better be real good at resetting that speed, because the machine will not do that for you. Indeed, it took me several test runs with a more modern machine before I could finally comfortably reset the speed between each round.
The three-card Monty is performed with the aid of a magic flap that you can make yourself by cutting an old card on a diagonal and taping it to the ace of clubs. The joker is hidden underneath the magic flap. No matter what your friends pick, they'll never find the missing card.
Most origami starts with a square piece of paper, usually about 6 to 8 inches on each side. The folds themselves hold the figure together. No tape or other fasteners are ever used.
Rock dancing is one of the freest kinds of dancing you can do. Make sure you have a lot of room, because you'll be moving around a lot.
Touch, front, 2, 3, touch, side, back, touch, back, touch, click, click, tap, back, side, up, back, 2, 3, touch.
Hello again. I'd like to introduce my acrobatic paper clips. To make them perform, I'll give them a dollar bill. Fold the bill once, and we put on one paper clip. Fold it again, and we put on the other. When we pull the ends of the bill, the paper clips leap up and join together in midair. To learn how to do it, go back and play the trick in slow motion.
Just to tie up a couple of loose ends, officially there was no second National Kid Disc. However, some consider the subsequent OPA release Fun and Games, which I don't have, to be the effective sequel. And, perverse as it sounds, the first National Kid Disc was reissued in 1990 by Voyager Software, who was also responsible for the Criterion Collection at the time. And no, the reissue doesn't include any automatic chapter or frame stops either. The only other OPA title I have also happens to be one of, if not their last. Maze Mania, from late 1982 or early 1983. Despite the title, the maze is strictly metaphorical. Maze Mania is actually the video equivalent to a choose-your-own-adventure type book, albeit one that runs on trivia, and also asks you to keep your own score. The basic gameplay is as follows. Before each question, you watch a brief bit of an especially corny movie, usually no more than 20 seconds in length. Then the disc automatically pauses on a trivia question, assuming you're playing the color card that comes up automatically. Otherwise, you need to go frame by frame to find your color. Then you make your decision, another bit of the movie plays, albeit not automatically, and you're told whether you were right or wrong. 2 consecutive wrong answers will lead you to a borderline literal dead end, and you'll have to start over again. Well, actually, if you follow the on-screen instruction, it gives you a free pass. The game doesn't really follow its own honor system.
13. How many steps heading into the castle?
And just in case you thought the game was too easy, you could also play only the right channel of audio, which featured extra, especially nitpicky questions about the movie, which have no bearing on the remainder of the disc's gameplay. It's just there to drive yourself crazy.
16. How many doorways are visible?
And if you win, well, the footage never changes regardless of the questions asked. Consider this a trivia game for those with a taste for tedium and repetition.
Tired of zapping the same old electronic aliens? Well, good news. Shooting is already underway on the second in a series of video games using live actors. This will become an audience participation murder mystery with 16 different endings.
For all intents and purposes, the final stab at participatory Laserdiscs that I'm aware of came by way of the incredibly short-lived Mystery Disc series, which lasted for only 2 installments. Namely, Murder Anyone from late 1982 and Many Roads to Murder from early 1983. The Mystery Disc series revolved around private detective Stu Kavanaugh, played by future Shermer High Principal Paul Gleason. And that's about it. The Mystery Disc Near series pushes the notion of participative Laserdiscs to its absolute limit and logical end, bringing all the maddening quirks of its predecessors along with it.
I could smell a trace of gunpowder.
This is how Murder Anyone begins. A quick plot setup, then millionaire Derek Reardon is killed. Who did it? Well, you follow the directions on the screen, push the controls, select one of 2 audio tracks, file through clues, and at the end you're either right or wrong.
I don't think I could go for that. I would be too patient. It wouldn't be fast enough for me. I don't think I would like it.
The concept's difficult to get a handle on.
Yesterday we had this giant...
Like May's Mania, the mystery discs are effective equivalents to the choose-your-own-adventure types of books. However, Mystery Disc takes things one step farther by playing like an especially difficult game of Clue. Albeit in this case, you're looking for the culprit, method, and motive, as opposed to location. Actually, come to think of it, it's kind of a direct precursor to the 2 Clue VCR games, right down to the absurdly difficult and mostly self-tracked rules. This whole identifying business has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the game.
It's just one more thing for you to have to do on top of solving 4 murders per game. Anyway, everybody draws 3 cards.
Then you watch a video sequence. Then you have 4 options. You can draw another card. You can rewatch a sequence. You can ask another player a question about their identity. Or you can just have that steal another player's card.
Okay, try and stick with me here. The gameplay of Mystery Disc involves you keeping track of the 16 possible scenarios and their associated audio tracks on the disc. In other words, you need to keep track of each choice you make and be sure to write them down in order, because you'll need them later. And having said that, you'll also want to take notes while you're watching to keep track of everyone's alibis, and you'll need to keep note of the still frames where your dossiers and evidence are on the disc.
The cops just assumed it was suicide because Derek's finger had been found clutched around the trigger. They had to break the bone in order to get the gun out of his hand. So imagine everybody's puzzlement when they discovered that Derek had been killed by poison. The shot everybody heard had been fired into a body that had already gone into rigor mortis.
Got it?
Oddly enough, my biggest gripe with Mystery Disc is that while the mysteries are, given the limitations, surprisingly nuanced, once you figure it out, which isn't always easy, there's no payoff. Instead of even a brief clip featuring the culprit getting named and or arrested, all you get are a plain congratulations still, plus a few text-only frames telling you what you've already deduced. My other gripes are that the production levels are substandard. The audio levels, especially on Murder Anyone, are all over the place, and the obviously shot on video footage occasionally warbles and glitches, VHS style. Also, the pictures of the evidence are often blown out and or blurry, made worse by a standard TV's not-so-hot grip on still frames. And once again, the navigation is clunky and unintuitive.
Yesterday we had this giant argument. I told her she
The producers say these things are tough to shoot because in different versions there can be different killers, even different victims.
And we have a person who's killed in Chapter 2 who, depending on another path, turns up quite alive in the detective's office in Chapter 4.
While I have to admire VidMax's, the company's, ambitions, the cold hard truth about both mystery discs is that they're not fun. In the end, you spend far more time taking notes, keeping tabs, and doing silly math formulas until you come to a conclusion. Indeed, you might want to keep a printing or graphing calculator handy while you're playing. Forgot to mention that earlier. Did I mention that both mystery discs were also available on CED? Well, at long last, I think I've finally gotten to the bottom of the whole literal video game dilemma. And yeah, it's only taken me how many episodes worth of VCR games and the Action Max and all that stuff. But anyway, prior to this episode, I really genuinely thought that Laserdiscs would be a much better way to go than any tape-based format. But as I found out after dealing with these discs a bit, really, if you want to play a board game, just play a board game. You want to play a video game, play a video game. You want to watch a movie, just watch a movie. The worlds just don't need to collide. But anyway, that's almost it for today's archive. There's just one thing from the kid disc that's been kind of bugging me. So, well, I'll be damned. It actually works.
Prepare yourself for a new experience.